Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in time and space, land and sea. Welcome to Just the Word TV, and thank you for joining our daily morning devotion. This channel is built on one mission to help you hear what God actually said, not tradition, and just the word. So, as you all know, on vacation, and this morning I thought I was going to take a little rest, but I continued reading Proverbs, and I got to Proverbs chapter, not Proverbs chapter, but Proverbs chapter 7, verses 18 to 20. Right? I'm reading it and I'm looking at it, and then I'm looking at the previous verses before we even got there. I'm like, nah, this is something that I have to teach to people. This is something I have to give to the people because of the fact of what it's teaching us here. Right, so let's get to it, and I want you all to be very attentive to what it is that I'm about to speak here today. If you haven't seen any of my other devotions at all, or you may have you think I have too many videos posted, this is probably going to be one of the most important ones. So let's get into it. In the book of Proverbs, the seventh chapter serves as a masterclass in the anatomy of a poor decision. It provides a slow motion breakdown of how a person moves from a position of safety to one of total ruin. By the time we reach verses 18 to 20, the narrative has already established a pattern of vulnerability. The young man has positioned himself in the wrong neighborhood, allowed his accountability to drop by wandering at twilight, and permitted himself to be caught by a persuasive voice. These final verses represent the rationalization phase. This is the moment where the internal logic of the compromise is finalized, right before the point of no return. So before we go into 18 and 20, I want to remind you of what happened in verses 14 and 15, right? So before this, the voice that the young man hears isn't just persuasive, it's pietist. Before the late honesty of verse 19, the woman uses a calculated religious hook. In verse 14, she says, I have peace offerings with me. This day have I paid my vows. In the ancient context, a peace offering was a religious feast. By claiming she has just come from the temple, she is projecting a halo effect, using religious status to mask predatory intent. She then frames her meeting as providential in verse 15, suggesting that because she sought him out after her prayers, their connection must be a God thing. This is the ultimate red flag, using spiritual language to bypass moral boundaries. Because the young man accepts this religious mask, his discernment is already paralyzed before the real truth is even spoken. And I'm reading 18 to 20, I'm like, yo, how many of us have been caught in this particular situation? And don't even have to be in like a intimate relationship or anything like that. Think about a business deal. Think about a negotiation you're going through. How many times have you been caught in a situation where someone is getting you hooked and they're getting you baited into something only to let you know what the catch is after you have, signed on the dotted line? So let's look at verse 18 and look at verse 18, 19, and 20. Verse 18, come let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us solace ourselves with loves. So having established her spiritual credentials, the woman now offers a feast. Verse 18 is framed around two dangerous concepts, an abundance and an anonymity. The phrase take our fill suggests a feast without a bill, a commodity that can be consumed in unlimited quantities without the burden of consequence. Furthermore, the mention of until the morning creates an artificial, temporary world. This is the hallmark of rationalization. The belief that one can step out of reality, indulge in a desire, and then step back into real life when the sun rises, changed and unscathed. So it's like people picking up the mantle of Christ on a Sunday, and the minute Monday comes, they're a completely different person, right? You can't be walking with Christ, and then because you see a particular desire that you want to indulge, you wanna step out of Christ, indulge in that desire, then you just step right back into it. It doesn't work like that. Verse 19. And this is where it got me. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. This don't make no sense. All of a sudden, this is what you're gonna say. You had so much time. You were speaking to this boy, to this young man beforehand, and now he's not at home. He's going on a long journey. This is when you want to explain. So, verse 19 says, "For the good man is not at home; he is gone a long journey." So, verse 19 provides a jarring revelation. The woman is married. In the King James version, the good man refers to her husband. To a modern reader, this might feel like a plot twist, but within the context of the chapter, it is the confirmation of what should have already been obvious. The red flags were waving long before this. She was dressed for the street. She was subtle of heart, and she was using religious rituals to justify a late night meeting. And due to the fact of what she was doing or what she said she was paying her vows, right? Usually those type of actions involved or meant that you came from a religious household. And if you're coming from a household during those ancient times, remember you have to put things in context, right? The young man did not put things in context. She's a woman coming from a religious, doing these religious things. She's obviously showing that she's coming from a household where a man is basically the presiding master of that household, right? Meaning that she is belonging to a household. She's participating in these religious activities because she belongs to a household. Remember, if a woman is unmarried, right, it's very difficult for her to have any type of rights. It's very difficult for her to have any type of she can't do really much of anything. So the mere fact that she said that she went to the temple, she gave her vows and paid her vows or whatever it might be, right? To an untrained eye, you might think, well, okay, well, she's religious. But in the context of that particular time period, that means that if she is going to participate in these religious things, in these religious vows, that means she has to be a part of a household. She has to be married of some. She has to be married. She has to be connected to someone. So it's very important, right? We see how wisdom, right? If we don't use it at the very beginning, we miss these little cues, right? We miss these little cues. So by the time she says, "Oh, the good man has," is basically gone, she's telling him the truth. She's telling him the truth only after she has, gained some type of connection with him. So, and this is just because the young man ignored the character of the situation earlier, the facts of the situation, that this is basically adultery, right? So when we refuse to use wisdom to evaluate the atmosphere of a situation, the specific details of danger no longer alarm us. And then verse 20, he had taken a bag of money with him and will come home at the day appointed. So the rationalization moves from the what to the when. By noting the husband has a bag of money and a day appointed for his return, she provides a logistical justification for safety. She is essentially saying the person who could hold you accountable is far away and preoccupied. This highlights a fundamental human flaw. We often confuse the absence of immediate consequences with the absence of ultimate consequences. The young man isn't told that his actions are right. He is told that they are safe. By focusing on the distance of the husband, the perceived risk is minimalized. And the tragedy here lies in the timing. This is a phenomenon we can call late honesty. Late honesty occurs when the truth is disclosed only after emotional attachment and momentum have already been formed. At this stage, the truth no longer functions as a warning, it functions as permission. We see this in modern life when someone waits until a deal is almost done or a relationship is deeply committed to reveal a major catch. They might tell themselves, at least I told them, using the disclosure to soothe their own conscience. But integrity is not just about the content of the truth, it's about the timing. If you wait until the other person is all in to reveal the danger, you are relying on their momentum to override their judgment. So the question remains, why does the young man continue forward even after he knows she is married? That's the big question is. The answer is that wisdom is not just about the ability to recognize truth, it is the strength to respond to it. Because the young man lacked the wisdom at the start of the journey, which is basically at verse 7, he lacked the moral infrastructure to act on the truth once it finally arrived. His heart was already captured by the peace offerings and the solace. Discernment delayed is often discernment denied. If we do not exercise wisdom when the stakes are low, evaluating the environment, the religious excuses, and the early red flags, we will find ourselves powerless when the truth finally comes out. Early wisdom is the only true protection. It allows us to see the long journey, not as a window of opportunity, but as a countdown to a reckoning. And it brings me to this last point to discuss cognitive dissonance, right? Ultimately, the reason we need wisdom from the get go is to protect ourselves from cognitive dissonance. And this is what this young man is going through, especially after he received the truth. He's battling with the emotion of feeling that pleasure versus the truth of the warning. Do not mess with this lady. When the young man finally learns the truth that she is married, his mind is already flooded with the solace and peace offering she promised. At this point, the brain experiences deep discomfort. I am a person of integrity, but I am standing on the porch of an adulteress. To resolve that pain, he doesn't flee, he adjusts his beliefs to match his actions. He accepts her excuse that the husband is far away because it is easier than admitting he is in a trap. Wisdom prevents this by stopping the momentum before the dissonance begins. If you use discernment when you are still in the street, you'll never have to negotiate with your conscience in the bedroom. Early wisdom is the only true protection. It ensures that by the time late honesty arrives, you've already walked away. So this is very this particular devotion is super important to me because a lot of times, and I've been caught in this situation as well, right? You have been wooed, you've been flattered, you've been told this, that, and the third, right? Gaslit to the point that even if they tell you that they are the devil themselves, you're going to continue moving forward with them because they have created a sense of atmosphere. They created a sense of feeling that no matter what the truth is, you don't want to separate yourself from it. You don't want to walk away from it. And this is the trap, and this is what we're seeing with this young man and this adulterous woman. She basically told him indirectly that she's a married woman, and then came out outright with it that she's a married woman. But because of that late honesty, because of the fact that she chose to acknowledge this truth late in the game, it's hard for him to walk away. It's hard for him to walk away. His all of his senses are basically trapped by this woman. So she can say anything. She can say that the water, the ocean water is not full of salt, right? Ocean water is not full of salt. Ocean water is not gonna kill you. If you were to jump into ocean water, you'll be absolutely safe. And that young man would jump into the ocean water thinking that the ocean water is absolutely safe. That is the type of environment that was created for him, for his mental thinking. So this devotion was just for us to understand that we need to catch the early signs of this adulterous wisdom. We need to catch the early signs of it, because what ends up happening is if we don't catch the early signs of it, we get ensnared into a trap. That by the time we even hear the truth, by the time this young man even heard the truth, it was too late. It was too late. He had already made a decision. His body had already made a decision that his mind did not even think about yet. So until next time, everyone, I ask that you stay grounded, stay humbled, and above all else, stay aligned with just the word. Thank you.